My bridge over Rock Creek project has turned into a bigger project than I thought it was. So I'm going to have a lot more videos to show you about what I'm doing back here. I started on this project a little over a month ago, and if you were watching Model Railroading for Beginners, you know I ran into a problem with this bridge pier when I first installed the Chooch Enterprise stonework on it. The adhesive didn't stick, so that became a bigger project than I first anticipated. So that took an extra couple of days. But then I've been working on a lot of stuff back here. I got the tunnel portal, one tunnel portal in, and I was going to wait till this coming weekend. We're going to a train show in Tampa to see if I can get another tunnel portal from Woodland Scenics. But then I decided, well, I'm going to use the one that I built a couple of years ago, which is about right there. I had it in a different place that I haven't worked on yet, so I could always build another one. So I have that one right there in its place, and I had to shave down a little bit of the scenery to get it in there. Now I have the rest of my retaining walls. I have to paint these two, get them down here where you can see them. Also, I'm making a little culvert because I have some water running underneath one of the retaining walls, so I built this little, I'm going to paint this as concrete. Everything is building up on everything else. So this is finished, this is ready to go in once I get everything else out of the way right there. I'm working on this, the hair, so I could have my reversing loop, the turnout on the reversing loop switch automatically instead of having to go there and switch it manually every time the train goes around it. But that's going to be controlled by the hair, and I had to cut some gaps in my track to do that, and I'll show you some pictures on that also. So we're going to have about maybe 3 or 4 videos out of this thing all together, but today what I'm going to show you is over here, and I'll get a little bit closer with my camera so I could show you what I've done so far. I cut some strips of cardboard, not the corrugated boxes, but the lighter boxes that you would find in soda, cases of soda, where I have right here. It's a little bit thinner and a little bit easier to work with. And we're going to be using these as the base for our plaster cloth when we lay that down. I built this tunnel portal a couple of years ago for another location, but I think I'm going to use it in this location over here. I glued this piece of stonework over here for my bridge abutment I took out from another area, and here is the weathered bridge pier that I did. I'll do another video showing you how I did that. I leveled it out to make sure everything fits in there properly, and I used the NMRA gauge to see that I had the clearance that I needed for the track and the pier. Now here's the tunnel portal when I was gluing the retaining wall to it. Now here's the first coat of paint that I had on it, and I just put it in place to see how it would fit. I used a solution of Indian ink and alcohol to get this effect of the wood on the tunnel portal. I'll include this in the video with the bridge pier. I had to cut some gaps in the track for the turnout for my reversing section with a Dremel motor tool. Since I already had scenery above it, I had to be careful where I cut the gaps in the track. As you can see here, I did one on a re-railer and the other on a ballasted section. You'll notice that I cut the gap about 3 or 4 ties long. This is to prevent the track from moving. I soldered the blue wire on the short piece of track as the trigger and then put a jumper around it, and on the other one a yellow wire I did the same thing. Since this one was on a re-railer, I had to run the jumper all the way around to the other side of that piece of track. This is where I originally planned on putting the scratch-built tunnel portal, and you can see it matches the other ones that I built there. And on this shot here, this is where I will be putting the culvert on the retaining wall between the two tunnel portals. Some square stock styrene and a sheet of styrene to make this little culvert thing here. And this little thing right here is from a desiccant in prescription drugs. You know, they put that in there to suck up the moisture. I cut this on both sides and I glued all this together. I have it so it'll fit right into the retaining wall where I have where I have the water coming out. And what I'll do is I'll trim the bottom of this once I get all the scenery in place and the retaining wall in place. But you can see how I cut that to fit right in there, and then I'll just glue it or epoxy it to the retaining wall that I have right next to the tunnel portal. I cut these two retaining walls. This is going to fit right in here. Is going to be the scratch-built tunnel portal. This is going to be the side where the rocks are on this side here. So all I'll have to do is paint all this stuff and we'll be good to go. Since I already had scenery above where I cut the gaps in the track, I had to solder the wires and leave them above and then run them down through a hole that I have in between the two tunnel portals. But there's a jumper that goes between the short piece that you can see right here. You can see the blue wire that's on the little section of track that trips the turnout. And then there's a jumper around it. And on the other track, you can see a yellow wire that I have for the same reason for the other track. And then I have a jumper around that. But that's going to operate the hair, and that'll relieve some problems with me not having to manually operate the turnout when I have a train coming around through the loop. If it comes up through the closed position, it'll automatically go to the thrown position when the train comes around to the other side, and vice versa. So that'll relieve a big headache in that area, especially since it's sitting underneath all the scenery. I can't see it. It actually sits underneath that warehouse right there. You can see that I had to shave out and cut out some pieces of scenery to get the tunnel portals into place. When I had it before, I had the tunnel portals all the way up to the street. But on this one, I'm bringing the tunnel portals out a little bit to give me a little bit of room up on the street. And maybe I could put a small shack at the end of the track above the tunnel portal that'll be on the right-hand side. And when I do it, I'm going to raise the scenery up a little bit just to hide some of the transition of where the street goes across the track and up on to the other end. You can see right there, it's kind of a steep street right there, so I'm going to bring the scenery up a little bit higher and put some more bushes and trees up there so it doesn't look so bad. This is one brand of plaster cloth that I've used extensively on the layout. I've also used the Woodland Scenic, and there's also another brand that I used that I picked up at A.C. Moore and Michaels. In another video, I'm going to show you how I weathered the bridge pier and how I got the color to come out on the tunnel portal using India ink. And I have a little bit more work to do on the tunnel portal. It's not quite finished. I have to do some weathering on the bolts that they use on there. Here are two of the tunnel portals that I made a couple of years ago, and it's probably been more than a couple of years ago, but the one that I'm using I originally had right over there. Since I'm not going to be modeling this area for a while, I'm going to be using it now, and I'll build another one for over in this area right here. Well, we got a lot more work to do back there, and so we have a lot more videos to do. So on the next one, we're going to show you how I weathered the tunnel portal and the bridge pier. And we'll have some more on the construction of everything back in here. So until the next time, we'll see ya. I cut some strips of cardboard, not the corrugated type, but the kind that you would find in the... Okay. Let's do this over again.